The women of World War II who were captured and imprisoned did not just survive, they resisted. These resilient and brave women became the unsung heroes of World War II, showing the world that the human spirit can endure even the most brutal of circumstances. This documentary uncovers the untold stories of female POWs who defied death and captivity, finding strength in one another and refusing to be broken. Their courage in the face of unimaginable hardship continues to inspire generations. In the face of hunger, disease, and constant threat of death, these women fought for survival, and in doing so, they showed the world the true meaning of resistance, from the cold, damp barracks to the razor-sharp barbed wire fences that surrounded them. The female POWs of World War II formed unbreakable bonds, becoming warriors in their own right, through small acts of resistance, solidarity, and sheer willpower. These women turned their captivity into a battleground of survival. Their stories are ones of courage, defiance, and hope, reminding us that even in the darkest times, there is always a light that refuses to fade. The winds howled through the barbed wire fences of the prison camp, the cold biting through the thin fabric of their uniforms. Yet the women who stood within those fences were unwavering. The world beyond was a place of chaos and destruction. But within the confines of captivity, a different war was being waged. The sound of distant artillery mixed with the rhythmic clinking of the guards' boots, the creaking of rusty gates, the low murmurs of the women as they exchanged stories of survival, of loss, and of hope. These women were no ordinary prisoners. They were soldiers, nurses, wives, and daughters who had been taken from their homes, torn away from their families, and cast into the heart of enemy-controlled territory. Yet despite the harsh conditions, despite the constant threat of death, they remained resilient. They were the forgotten heroes of World War II. Women who had endured what many believed was impossible, their strength forged in the fires of captivity. Inside the camp, the stench of sweat, hunger, and fear was overpowering. Yet amid the suffering, there was something that bound these women together. It was a quiet strength, an unspoken resolve that refused to break them. The air was thick with desperation, but also with defiance. They were not just surviving, they were resisting. The crack of a rifle could be heard in the distance, the shrill cry of a whistle signaling another roll call. Yet they stood together, determined to face whatever came next. Yet she never imagined this moment would reshape her destiny. No one could have foreseen that these women, taken as prisoners, would become symbols of courage and resistance, their actions inspiring generations to come. In the face of unimaginable hardship, they had become warriors in their own right. Their resilience, a testament to the strength of the human spirit. Each day, the women woke to the sounds of the camp's harsh reality, the clanging of metal, the barking orders of the guards, the muffled sobs of the wounded. They carried with them the weight of loss, of homes left behind, but they also carried something else: the will to survive. The bond between them was unspoken yet undeniable, formed not just by the brutality they endured, but by their shared will to live. They passed along what little food they could steal. They whispered words of encouragement in the dead of night. They shared stolen moments of peace, where the outside world ceased to exist, and for just a moment, they could remember what it was like to be free. And then something no one expected: the bonds they formed in captivity would become the very thing that allowed them to survive, to keep fighting, to keep hoping when all seemed lost. Behind these ruins, a secret waited. A secret that would reveal the depths of their strength and their determination. For in the darkest corners of war, these women found the courage to fight back. It was in the moments of quiet desperation that they discovered their power. They were not just prisoners. They were soldiers of resilience, armed with nothing but their spirit. They became the backbone of the camp, tending to the wounded, comforting the sick, sharing their meager rations, and holding on to the belief that survival was possible. They had lost everything. Yet they had found something more powerful: sense of unity, of purpose, of defiance. What they discovered next would shake even their captors. These women, underestimated by those who imprisoned them, had become a force in their own right. Through whispers in the night, through secret actions of sabotage, through small acts of resistance, they fought back, not with guns or knives, but with their wits, their courage, and their hearts. The horrors they faced were unimaginable, but they never gave up. They endured torture, starvation, disease, and fear. Yet each day they woke up ready to face another battle. They were women of war, but their battlefield was the camp itself. The cold, concrete walls that surrounded them were not just prisons. They were arenas where the will to survive was tested, where courage was forged in the fire of adversity. Their lives had been reduced to mere existence, yet they fought for something more, for dignity, for justice, for freedom. And despite everything that had been taken from them, they held on to one thing: their unbreakable will to survive. Yet, despite the constant threat of death, they stood tall, refusing to bend under the weight of captivity. Every day, they faced the brutal realities of war-rationed food, freezing temperatures, disease, and the constant presence of death, but they never allowed it to define them. The barracks they lived in were nothing more than cold, damp shelters, yet within them, a fierce determination burned brightly. Their fight was not just for survival. It was for the right to live with dignity, to remember who they were before the war. Through the exhaustion and the hunger, through the nights spent listening to the sounds of the war raging outside, they found strength in each other, in the unspoken bond they shared. Behind the gates, they found freedom in their unity, in their ability to resist. They had been taken prisoner, but they refused to be broken. As the days turned into months, and the months into years, the war raged on outside. But inside the camp, these women kept their spirits alive. The enemy thought they had broken them, thought that by imprisoning them, they had won. But these women proved that the true battle was not one of captivity. It was one of resilience. They had become more than just prisoners. They had become symbols of strength, of defiance, of hope. What she discovered next would shake even her commanders. The strength of these women had become a beacon for others, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there was a light that refused to be extinguished. In the cold, dark moments of their captivity, when it seemed as if the world outside had forgotten them, they remembered each other. They remembered their families, their homes, and their country. They remembered why they had fought in the first place, and they found in themselves the will to resist, the strength to endure, and the courage to keep going. The women who had once been forgotten would leave a legacy of bravery that would never be erased. These women would be remembered not for their captivity, but for their refusal to surrender, for their unbreakable spirits, for their unyielding courage. As the war came to an end and the camp gates were finally opened, the women emerged not just as survivors, but as heroes. They had faced the unimaginable and come out stronger on the other side. Their bodies were scarred, their spirits tested, but their resolve had never wavered. They had not only survived, they had fought for their humanity, for their dignity, and for their future. The world would remember the women of World War II not just as victims of war, but as warriors, as symbols of resilience, strength, and courage. Their stories would live on, not in the history books, but in the hearts of those who heard their tales and carried their legacy forward. Their spirits were unbreakable, and their bravery would never be forgotten.